Good evening everybody and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking about my birth story today, which I'm really sort of keen to get started on because it's something I've wanted to do for a long time now. I'm sat here at 10 o'clock at night, Penny's in bed, Reese is out, and this is the time that I want to film. I guess it's sort of like I don't feel like I can express myself when the house is busy. When it's quiet and I know I've got the place to myself, I find it easier to sort of let everything out. So, am I the only one that does that? Firstly, I'm just going to give a quick round off about my pregnancy with Penny. I found out I was pregnant about 3 or 4 weeks with her. I had sickness from about 6 weeks to about 12-13 weeks. The scan at the 12-week scan was perfect, she was fine. I had a 16-week scan, found out she was a girl. 20-week scan, everything was fine. And then we had a 3D scan, I think 27 or 24 weeks. I can't actually remember now, but because I was under consultant care, I went in a couple of times about my back because I have had back problems since I was 17. And although my back seemed to actually improve while I was pregnant, I still had to go for regular checks to make sure everything was okay and whatever. And I think on one occasion during the end of my pregnancy, I actually got a scan from a trainee scanner person. I don't know what they're called. Until about halfway throughout my pregnancy, I was sort of absolutely fine. And then towards the second half of the pregnancy, I developed really itchy skin. Like towards the end of the pregnancy, it got to a point where I'd put ice packs, ice lollies, even, you know, ones I was eating because I was just so desperate to relieve the itch. I'd end up with being in baths at 5 o'clock in the morning. Freezing cold water, by the way, not just a bath, it was freezing. Yeah, and I just remember putting cold tea towels, putting my feet in freezing cold bowls of water, just being rigid in bed. I remember laying there tense, gritting my teeth and clenching my fists and thinking, how the hell am I going to sleep tonight? Because I was just so itchy and I hadn't even thought about anything at all. I just thought it's part of pregnancy. Or I don't even think I even acknowledged that. I just thought, why is my skin so itchy? It's really itchy. I never thought anything of it until I got to the point where I literally couldn't bear it anymore. And I went to Facebook and then someone said, oh, you know, you should ring the ward and blah, blah, blah. And I did. I rang the ward and they basically treated me like I was an imbecile and I was talking a load of faff. To get on with it, it's part of pregnancy, you get itchy skin sometimes, you know, growing and everything like that. I just got on with it. I think it was about 2 weeks later I put on Facebook that I was really struggling or something because it was unbearable, I was going out of my mind. And my cousin actually said to me, you need to ring the hospital because I've heard of this sort of condition, which I'll name here because I can't pronounce it to save my life. I rang the ward and I said everything again. I explained how itchy I was, how long it had been going on for, and they said that I needed to come in and get some blood work done. Again, still not thinking very much of it. I rang my mum and I just said, you know, can you come with me? Reese is at work. It was sort of early morning of the 13th of July and we scooted off to the hospital, casually walked up to the ward. I got some blood work done. In the meantime, I had to request a bowl of water to put my feet in and some cold presses because I was going insane even just sitting on the bed in the hospital. And they could obviously see I was struggling. But basically the blood work came back and I did have said condition. They said to me, the doctor said, you know, normal levels come back as, say, I think it's 14. Anything over 14 is considered to be OC. My own levels came back at 209, which were sky high. And he basically said to me, you're going to have your baby ASAP. Basically, it should have been discovered beforehand. And basically, they would have induced me before 37 weeks pregnant. So we were in the 39 weeks pregnant at this point. I was 39 plus 1 day when I went to the hospital and got this blood work done. And then I went straight on to monitoring. I had all sorts of pads and heartbeat monitor things all over me and straps, and it was just a bit claustrophobic. I couldn't move. But I had all of that on me and they were monitoring the baby all day. I was there all day, I couldn't move. think I got up to the toilet and that was about it. I wasn't allowed to go and walk around or anything. Her heart rate was going too high and she was becoming distressed. So basically they said they were going to induce me to get the baby out as soon as possible. It come to a point where I sort of was like panicking a bit because I hadn't come to hospital to have my baby. I came to hospital just to find out if they'd give me a cream or something. So it was a bit of a shock because she was due on the 18th of July, which, you know, was any day to come. But I had focused my mind onto the 18th and I expected her to come then. Obviously I know it doesn't work like that and I know you can go way overdue that, but I just had it in my head that's, you know, I wouldn't have my baby before that. Especially being told that, you know, if it's your first baby you're really likely to go overdue and things like that, and I just really sort of didn't expect them to say, oh, you're going to have your baby like any time now. I was laying down and they did an examination as they were going to put the pessary in, and they said to me, oh, well, we don't need this then. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, you're already 2-3 centimetres dilated, you're already in labour. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Again, whoa, didn't expect that. But yeah, she said I was already in labour and there was no need for the induction because I was already labouring myself. So basically they said, we have to wait till you're 5 centimetres, then we're going to take you over to the delivery suite and we're going to have to pop your waters. I was like, okay. I stayed on the ward all Sunday night on the 13th and I don't remember being in any pain whatsoever. I remember being tired. I was so tired because I could hear all these other women around me like really into their labour and they were screaming and howling and like they were just having a really hard time and I just couldn't sleep. My mum was with me, she stayed with me the whole time. Reese was at work and he was sort of on hand, like panicking on the phone, like tell me if anything's going on, like tell me when I need to be there, I don't know what's happening. And I know I didn't really know what was happening because I'd never given birth before myself and I didn't know how quickly things would go. And I think they check you every like 4 hours, I think it is. So they checked me sort of during the night and it was nearly 5 centimetres. And by the next day, early morning, I was examined again. I was 5 centimetres and I was told I could then go over to the delivery suite. So I had to ring Reese and say, you know, you need to come to the hospital because we're going over now, they're going to burst my waters and you need to sort of get here. Basically in the hospital that I was at we could have 2 birth partners. I chose to have Reese and my mum there with me and I wouldn't have had it any other way. My mum is my rock through thick and thin and I wouldn't have been able to do it if she wasn't there. Reese is my partner and I love him and we have a baby that we've longed for absolutely ages and gone through so much to have. Of course he was going to be there. I told my mum when we got to the delivery suite that I wanted her to wait with me until Reese got there. I refused to have my waters broken until Reese was there because I really wanted him to be, I suppose not to witness it as much because I'm sure he didn't really want to see that, but to be a part of it and to see me through it and things. Although the nurse was saying, you know, we need to get your baby out, it sounds selfish now thinking back and thinking I should have just told them to burst my waters to get my distressed baby out. At that time I was so focused on Reese had to be there, I want Reese, where's Reese? And I think I was just afraid more than anything. I just couldn't do this without Reese. So he wasn't long, he was only sort of like half hour, 45 minutes. I came to the hospital and literally the nurse was straight in there and she popped my waters, which was the strangest sensation I've ever felt in my life. It was just like, you know when you empty a swimming pool and the water just goes whoosh? That's what I felt like, really warm whoosh coming through my legs. And then even the midwife was like, whoa, that's a lot of water. And then I was joking, I said, well, I have drunk a lot this pregnancy. While that was happening, my mum went back to work. She works in the hospital where I was at, and I said, you know, I'll call you back when we need you and things are sort of progressing. So I stayed with Reese and I was still hooked up to all these monitoring things. And at one point, while my waters were sort of breaking, I said, you know, I can't sit here anymore, please let me just sit on a ball, because that was my preferred birth experience. I wanted like a really active birth. I wanted to be able to sort of walk and pace around the room and get on the ball, and you know, I just wanted to be up and around while I was giving birth. But obviously because of the risks, because of having the OC, they basically said yes, I could go on the ball for a while, and then I had to go back onto the bed. And I was still hooked up to the monitors while I was on the ball, and I was just swaying and just rocking, and I don't know, I felt like as soon as my waters had gone, the pain just like reached a level like really quickly. At this point I was, you know, well into 5 centimetres and I hadn't had any pain relief. The nurse was like, kept asking me, do you want anything for the pain? You know, do you want some codeine? Do you want some paracetamol? And I was saying, no, I'm fine. I don't want anything until I need it. And she was, you know, just really on top of me, making sure I was okay, and just really, really nice. I can't even think of how long I was on the ball for, but it felt like it wasn't long before I had to start sort of getting into the zone, rocking, like talking to myself in my head, going, breathe, breathe, breathe through it. And I was sort of giving myself really deep breaths. I remember it, I'm getting out of breath even talking about it. But yeah, I was just really getting myself into the zone, really concentrating, until it was the point where I was sort of not able to control them anymore. I felt like they were actually coming quite quickly. It didn't seem like it was you know, like 5 minutes here or 5 minutes here, 4 minutes. It felt like one after the other. I don't know if that's normal straight after your waters or something, but I felt like they would come on really rapidly. So when it got to a point that I couldn't control them anymore, I said to the nurse, can I have some codeine or something please? And she gave me 2 tablets and I had codeine, and I decided after that I would try and get some sleep. So I laid on the bed and I had a little nap, which was fantastic. I just remember going to sleep, and then I woke up screaming, like absolutely screaming, shouting at Reese, get the midwife! Get the midwife! Press the buzzer! Open the door! Get the midwife! Like, I was hysterical. Oh my god, to picture myself now doing it. But I literally woke up to huge pain, like massive pain. And I was just screaming to Reese to get the nurse, and he stood up in shock, like, what do you mean, where, how do I call her, where do I go? And I was like, open the door! And he opened the door and he was like, excuse me, and then the midwife came running in saying, you okay? I was just screaming, like, hysterically, and then I was giving gas and air, and that fixed things for a while. I can't really remember, I think I was just sort of going in and out of contractions and sleep, and that bit's sort of a bit of a blur, and I'd only had codeine by this point, so the gas and air sort of put me out a little bit. I think I was just going in and out of sleep, and Reese had some footage of me while I was on the gas and air, and I was loop-de-loop. By this point my mum had been called back. I was apparently shouting for my mum, I wanted my mum, and then Reese actually got some footage of me sort of as I was coming in and out of sort of consciousness, I suppose, on the gas and air, and you can hear me saying, sort of waking up and seeing my mum going, when did you get here? And my mum was like, I've been here for a long time really now. And I was like, oh, okay, and sort of really out of it. It would be really good if I can get that back, but I think it's gone because Reese has got a new phone since then, and I don't know if I'll be able to access it, but I will try. I got to a point on the gas and air where that was it, I needed something else. So we went to pethidine, which I sort of regret it, but really appreciated it at the same time. It worked wonders, but I was so out of it. I felt like I was just coming in and out and in and out of like life. So while although it helped with pain, it sort of made everything really blurry for me. But I probably, if I could, I would avoid it, but if it was to just avoid the pain, then I would do it. I remember having to need a wee, and they sort of, everyone in the room, Reese, my mum, the midwife, all helped me up off the bed and were trying to carry me to the toilet because I was literally almost there. And they put me on the toilet and I tried to go for a wee and I couldn't go myself. I was just saying, I need a wee, I need a wee, I need a wee. I couldn't go, so they put me back onto the bed and I had to have a catheter put in to help me go to the toilet, which I just remember being really painful for like 2 seconds and then it was done. It kind of makes me cringe thinking back about it now because I do remember the pain, but it literally only lasted for 2 seconds and I don't know why it still bothers me now. I think it's more the thought that bothers me than anything else. Honestly, my mum and Reese were amazing. They were so good and I just remember calling out for them one at a time. You know, where's my mum, where's my mum? And my mum would come over and I'd hold her hand and I'd get angry at her because her hands were too small, so I'd say, no, 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 where's Reese, where's Reese? And I'd call Reese over and I'd squeeze the life out of his hands. And the next thing I remember is pushing. So the next stage was pushing. I was saying I need to push, I need to push, I need to push now. And then they checked me and I was ready to go. And I literally remember the gas and air was gone. Like, I was pushing and I don't think the pushing was anywhere near as bad as what I thought it would be. It was painful, don't get me wrong, it really was painful, but I don't think it was as bad as what I imagined it to be. It was like a burning sensation, like they say about the ring of fire and it was definitely the ring of fire, and I totally stand by that comment. In my own experience, I didn't find the pushing part as bad as expected. Pushing and pushing and pushing, got to a point where till the head was there. The lady said, you know, do you want to feel it? And I was a bit taken aback by that. I was like, what do you mean do I want to feel it? What am I feeling? And the lady was like, your baby, like, do you want to feel her? And so she helped me and she put my finger on the head and it sets me off. And it just felt so real and, you know, it spurred me on so much. And I'm getting emotional now even talking about it because I wanted her so much, like a lot. Sorry, I don't even mean to cry. How pathetic. But we fought to get her for a long time, and to be at this point, to be at the point where we could feel her and know that she was coming at any moment was just so overwhelming. Doctors got to a point after she let me feel the head and she said to me, you need to get this baby out, Lorraine, you need to get this baby out, your baby's exhausted, your baby's getting tired now. If we don't get this baby out in the next push, we're going to have to get the doctors in. That really spurred me on, and I remember just thinking in my head and sort of gritting my teeth, shouting at myself, saying, get this baby out, you get this baby out and you bring her out into the world. And I did, and I did, and she was born and she was not crying, which I was a bit like, what? Like you see on all the films and TV and things, if they don't cry, like something's wrong. And you know, I just wanted to hear the cry from like as soon as she came out, but it didn't happen. It was like only like a few 30 seconds, and then she started howling, and that was just, well, it's gonna set me off again. It was amazing, the best feeling in the world. And then she was put straight onto my chest. She was just clean. I couldn't believe how clean she was. She was perfect. She didn't have any of that gunk or blood or white stuff on her. She was just clean as a whistle, which I was a bit like, oh. When I was just looking at her, I just saw her as just perfect. And she had sort of little black hair, and her eyes were like wide open, and she was named Penelope Louise. She weighed 7.3 pounds and was born at 6:27 p.m. on the 14th of July, 4 days before her due date. She is honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. I remember being asked did I want an injection to help the placenta go out, and I was just totally in a different world of love. Just said, yep, do whatever, just do whatever. And I don't even remember it coming out. I don't remember anything. That was it. I just remember Penny, and that was it. The placenta, I don't even have any knowledge of what happened with that. Obviously it was just came out and went in the bin, I suppose. After that, I just laid there. I have a picture actually of me in the straight after birth condition. I was unconscious, I was exhausted, and I just was laying there like, ugh. I was then made to go and get in a bath so I could freshen up. I was then checked over again, and they said that I had like a graze, not a tear, but like just a small graze, and that it would heal on its own. I didn't need any stitches or anything, which I was really, really glad at. That's one thing I was actually quite scared of. Then I stayed in the hospital. Everyone had left me and gone home, and I moved up to one of the wards, and that was it. I was sort of said, you know, here you are, here's your bed, good night. And I remember just sitting there like, what? What now? What do I do? And I was just a bit sort of in shock, like, okay, this child is here, she's tiny, she's new, I did it, I just gave birth to her, and now I'm sitting here in a room on my own with this tiny human. It was just a bit scary and overwhelming. And then she just cried and cried and cried and cried, and I pressed, in the end I pressed for the midwife, because she was, you know, she wasn't interested in feeding. I was getting a bit panicked and overwhelmed, I guess. The nurse said to me, the first thing she says, well, have you checked her nappy? And I thought, no, is that something I have to do? Like, I was just totally delirious, and it hadn't even come to my mind. And it turned out she'd done her first poo explosion, which was one of the worst poos that she has ever done up until now. First 5 minutes of being a parent and failed. Couldn't even change a bum, and even then, when we figured out that it had been a poo explosion, the nurse said, you know, do you want me to help you? And I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing at all. I was like, can you show me what to do? Because I was just so scared of like hurting her, and you know, I was just so like new to everything and scared, and I felt vulnerable, and I just needed like a little bit of help. But after, so she only did the one nappy, and then I was like, oh, it's fine, I can do it. And then we just got with it just straight away. I was breastfeeding really well, and she was feeding brilliantly. I even got quite a bit of sleep. And then we went home and lived happily ever after, I guess, because we still are living the dream with our little baby Penelope. She was worth every minute of pregnancy, every itch, every graze, every scream, every tear, everything, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So yes, that's my birth story. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry about the tears. It does make me a little bit emotional talking about all these feelings and things. I hope to see you soon, and I'll see you in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up with future videos. Thanks for watching. Bye!